They stood in the stale air of their apartment, panting from the kind of slap fight that would get a standing ovation on daytime TV. The lamp was tilted at a 45-degree angle like it had given up halfway through a faint. Solo cups dotted the carpet like red regret confetti. A throw pillow had been ripped in half, and neither woman had the courage to look the shredded stuffing in the eye. Cassie stared at Deandra like she was trying to summon the ghost of the woman she'd married. Deandra just looked confused, like a raccoon caught mid-crime. Their eyes landed on the mirror above the dresser. It was a cheap thing from Target, framed in imitation wood, but it had seen things, ugly things, and now it was seeing this. Cassie, torn collar, flushed face, right sock gone. Deandra, wild hair, oversized t-shirt, and the unmistakable puff of a diaper riding high on her hips like an exposed lie. It rustled as she adjusted herself and pretended not to notice. "The hell am I wearing?" Deandra finally said. Cassie didn't answer. She reached into the Walmart shopper bag like a magician about to pull out a dove and came up with a rubber pacifier. She didn't speak, just walked over and popped it into Deandra's mouth like a bartender handing a drink to a regular who'd already said too much. "Mmph," came the protest. Cassie gripped her by the wrist. "Kitchen. Now." The journey from bedroom to kitchen was the slowest march in Winchester. Deandra shuffled, the diaper crinkling with each reluctant step. Her eyes scanned for an exit, but the apartment was 600 square feet of nowhere to run. Cassie yanked out one of the mismatched chairs and shoved her into it. "You hungry, baby?" "Stop that," Deandra muttered, spitting the pacifier onto the table. "I'm not doing this." "You already are." Cassie turned toward the pantry with the grace of a woman looking for vengeance in canned form. After a moment of clanging and passive-aggressive metal-on-metal noise, she produced a dented can of Green Valley mixed vegetables and a bowl the color of expired yogurt. She didn't warm it up. Cassie dumped the cold, wet veggies into the bowl with a slurp that made both women wince. Then she grabbed a spoon and sat down across from Deandra, her eyes full of sadistic cheer. "Here comes the airplane." "Cassie, say ah." "I swear to God." Cassie lunged forward and shoved a cold spoonful of peas, carrots, and betrayal into her mouth. Some dribbled down Deandra's chin onto her t-shirt. She sputtered. "What is wrong with you?" Cassie's voice was too calm. "Eat the veggies or I'll feed you in your sleep." Deandra tried to bolt, but Cassie caught her by the arm and glared. "We've been through this. You want to play helpless? Fine. But you're gonna eat like someone who can't be trusted around solid food." 3 spoonfuls later, Deandra looked like a kid forced to finish her plate under the threat of missing recess. The food was revolting, but what hit harder was the humiliation. Cold carrots weren't the worst part. It was the look in Cassie's eyes. Not hatred. Worse. Control. After the 6th spoonful, Deandra muttered, "I ain't doing this crap anymore." Cassie stood. "You're right, you're not. You're going to your room." The drag back to the bedroom was rougher this time. Deandra tried to dig her heels in, but the linoleum gave her no traction. She shouted, swore, called Cassie a bitter old bitch, said she'd call the cops, said she'd move out, said she'd pee on purpose next time. Cassie didn't flinch. She opened the bedroom door, shoved her in, and slammed it shut. Click. Lock engaged. Deandra kicked the door and screamed. "You locked me in?" Cassie exhaled. "Sure did." "You're insane. And you're grounded." Silence. Then more kicking. Cassie walked to the bathroom, splashed water on her face, stared in the mirror again. She looked like a villain, or a mom, or both. She pulled her hair back into a bun, slapped on some mascara, grabbed her purse, and left. Sapphire Lounge, 9:52 p.m. Cassie was dressed in nothing but her work uniform, but it didn't matter. The bouncer barely looked at her ID. She took a seat at the bar, ordered a cocktail called the Jet Setter, and pretended she wasn't thinking about what kind of state Deandra was in back home. The place was loud, music thumping like a heartbeat on meth. Groups of women laughed too hard, couples fought in whispers, and someone was taking selfies near the bathroom. Cassie just watched. She ordered duck. Why not? She'd never had it. She imagined it was like chicken if chicken had a PhD. When it arrived, she ate slowly and with purpose. She wasn't just eating duck, she was tasting revenge. At the table next to her, a blonde in a sequin dress was loudly talking to her date. She just doesn't listen, you know? Like I tell her, if you can't even remember to take out the recycling, how are we gonna raise a kid? Cassie snorted into her drink. If only they knew. For a brief second, she imagined telling them. I fed my wife cold canned vegetables and locked her in a bedroom tonight because she wet the bed. Pass the salt. She didn't say anything, of course. She just sipped her drink and thought, maybe I don't have a child, but I do have a daughter. The thought made her smirk, not because it was funny, but because it was finally true. Back at home, Deandra alone. Inside the locked bedroom, Deandra paced like a hamster in an expensive cage. She tried the door again, still locked. The diaper had started to chafe. She sat on the bed, then stood up, then sat again. This is stupid, she muttered. This is fudding stupid. She pulled the pacifier out of the trash and stared at it. Is this who I am now? She threw it across the room. It bounced off the wall and landed next to a pile of her own laundry. Deandra sat on the edge of the bed and held her head. She was sobering up now, and sobriety never arrived with flowers. She'd peed the bed. Again. She hadn't applied to a job in 3 months. She hadn't even taken out the trash in 2. Her stomach turned. She wanted to cry, but something in her wouldn't allow it. Crying would make it real, admitting she'd screwed up again. She lay back and stared at the ceiling. At some point, she stopped resisting the pressure in her bladder. It was easier not to move, easier to let go. A faint warmth spread between her legs. She rolled over and whispered, I'm not a baby. But no one was there to hear it. Cassie returns. The key clicked just past midnight. Cassie walked in, slipped off her shoes, and moved like a ghost through the living room. The TV was still on. An infomercial about memory foam beds was playing. She ignored it. At the bedroom door, she hesitated, then unlocked it and opened it slowly. The air inside was different, heavy, like it knew what had happened. Deandra was curled up in the fetal position, facing the wall, the back of her shirt riding up just enough to show the swollen shape of the now wet diaper. Cassie didn't speak. She walked to the dresser, pulled out wipes and a clean diaper, then gently tapped Deandra's shoulder. Hey. Deandra didn't move. Cassie helped her sit up, cleaned her quietly, and changed the diaper without saying a single word. The room smelled like talcum and shame. Deandra looked up once, eyes glassy. Cassie looked back, tired. Go to sleep. Deandra nodded. Cassie turned off the light, shut the door, and left it unlocked this time. Couch, 1 a.m. Cassie wrapped herself in a blanket on the couch and stared at the ceiling. She didn't feel good. She didn't feel bad. She felt done. That was enough. She closed her eyes and whispered, You want to act like a baby? I'll be the damn babysitter. And she meant it. Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Mommy Sarah's Story Time. If you enjoyed the stories, please support the channel by liking and subscribing. Remember, my channel is not monetized, and I write most of the content myself. On occasions when I don't, it's sourced through emails from trusted contacts. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe. If you're able to, consider making a donation to support our channel. Your support means a lot. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to sharing more stories with you.